you look at this New York Giants season, it's definitely been a turbulent one. And when you look at the team enter next season, it's safe to say there's a lot of promise center around it, but still one big looming question, and that's who's going to be the head coach of the New York Giants. And over the past decade, it seems like that question has been asked every single year. They haven't been able to find the guy since Tom Coughlin to come in and establish a culture and lead this team to what they are, a historic franchise who has success no matter what. A team that's always playing good football, great football, hard-nosed football. And they haven't done that since Coughlin. They've rotated through four coaches, now five coaches if you count Kafka. They've all been a disaster. They've all blown up. They've all been unable to establish any sort of culture. Starting with Ben McAdoo, toxicity just ran all across that locker room. He benched Eli Manning for Geno Smith and then said, well, I may go back to Eli. And then he didn't. And it was just this weird conundrum with the New York Giants. And he got fired after that season. Then they went on to Pat Shurmur, a coach who had no success with the Cleveland Browns when he was coaching there. Then he was an OC with the Vikings and they brought him in and he was terrible. He lost 23 of 32 games with the team, and whether it was blowouts or close losses, he just couldn't do anything as a coach. He was not good with the team. Then they brought in Joe Judge, a special teams head coach or coordinator who had his own problems. He went on that weird rant in 2022 after the Bears lost and said, "Yeah, I like when they boo me, or the fans have a right to boo me. I'll get better, but this team is good, but this team is bad." It was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and he was fired like the next day. It was just a weird moment with Joe Judge. And then you got Brian Daboll, who had a great season the first year with Daniel Jones, but then he didn't like Daniel Jones, and then he benched Daniel Jones, and then he cut Daniel Jones. And then the locker room blew up the game after Daniel Jones was cut, and the whole locker room was blow up here, blow up there. Every player venting about this being an issue and that being an issue. It was a problem with Brian Daboll. And then come around to this season, Dexter Lawrence looks like he wants no part with the New York Giants, and this culture, it's falling apart. They fired Brian Daboll to get Mike Kafka. The defense is still a disaster. The offense is still a mess, and it's just like, who can fix this with the Giants? Because when you look at this roster, it's eerily similar to the Patriots of this season, where, hey, you have a young quarterback in Jackson Dart who, for the first time in a long time, New York can actually wrap their arms around and say, this is a guy who epitomizes what New York is all about. Flash, flair, fun, but hard-nosed football, hard-nosed, blue-collar, gritty, leaving it all on the line and more. And that's what Jackson Dart does as a player. Malik Neighbors, an elite wide receiver, one. Wan'Dale Robinson having a career year. The running back room, fun, exciting, solid. Scatterboo, Tracy, Singletary, a cornerstone left tackle, and Andrew Thomas. A defense that has all sorts of talent and then some, but again, just not playing good football. And it's like, who can come in and make Abdul Carter show up to practice on time and not have coaches getting mad about switching seating arrangements on an airplane and not flipping out at the media and at the team and making Jackson Dart leave the blue tent earlier than he had to because he's getting evaluated for a concussion. Like, what is going on in New York? I don't know. But who can be a coach that can come in and fix things? And the Giants have shown you since Coughlin has left the team that what they want is an offensive guy, and rightfully so. It's an offensive league. OC, special team coordinator, but a guy in Joe Judge who was offensive minded prior to being a special teams coordinator with the Patriots. And clearly it hasn't worked. And yes, there are some great coordinators around, like Joe Brady, an offensive coordinator for the Bills, who had success at LSU, who has success with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. But he hasn't coached before, right? Jesse Minter, a defensive minded guy, super bright, but he hasn't coached before. Who has? Who's coached and who's established a culture? Unlike Pat Shurmur, he coached with the Browns, but that was a terrible moment. They weren't good under him. And I think there's one answer, a very clear-cut answer of who the future head coach of the New York Giants should be. And that's Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson has had ample success everywhere he's been. He's done it at more than one spot. And players seem to respect Peterson and know how to learn and adapt under Doug Peterson. He was an offense coordinator with the Chiefs. He saw what Andy Reid did. He learned from Andy Reid. He played the position too, Doug Peterson. He was a quarterback prior to being a coach. Then he goes on to the Eagles. He gets hired in this Eagles team. They're just trying to put things together. They had Chip Kelly prior, and things weren't really working out. And it was just like, how can there's talent, but and there's vets, but how can we get things going? And Peterson walked in. He helped Carson Wentz, a rookie, establish himself prior to an injury as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He was an MVP candidate the year they won the Super Bowl, but he got hurt. He went through adversity, Peterson did, got Nick Foles ready, and got this team to win the Super Bowl. There was young talent across the board, but he also knew how to mesh with the veterans and Malcolm Jenkins, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. Then you look what he did with Jacksonville. He goes there, a team, a franchise that has been horrible since stepping in. And it's like they haven't been able to establish themselves. They haven't been able to establish culture. And he walks into the situation. He gets a second-year quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, who had the most turbulent season any quarterback could possibly have under Urban Meyer the year prior. And what does he do with Trevor Lawrence? He gets him back to what he was coined to be, a generational quarterback. He was top 10 in MVP voting that year, seventh to be exact. They won the division for the first time in quite some time. They go on to win a playoff game after being down 30-0 to the Chargers. He had a bunch of young players across the board. He had a young quarterback, but he got them to buy in and he established a culture. Obviously, things went south his third year in Jacksonville, but it's Jacksonville. It's a dysfunctional franchise, and it wasn't his first stop. Like I said before, he's had multiple experiences as a head coach of success and of success. And if you look at the NFL, at the end of the day, you can be one of the best coaches of all time. But when your time's up at a certain organization, it's up. Everyone's gone through it. All the greats have. Belichick, Reed even got chopped by the Eagles. And he went on to Kansas City to have even more success. It's just the nature of the game. But Peterson is the right guy for this team because when you look at the Giants and how they're laid out, they have a young quarterback, a second-year QB coming next season in Jackson Dart, who has promise, who's shown the ability to make the big plays and the big moments, but needs to be coached up a little bit more. And Doug Peterson has been there, done that with young guys in Carson Wentz and in Trevor Lawrence. And you look at the vets on this team. Dexter Lawrence has been very vocal or not vocal, but his actions have spoken louder than words about how this is just a culture not really built for him, built to succeed and to win. Peterson had vets who needed some direction, maybe not in terms of Fletcher Cox or Malcolm Jenkins. They weren't acting out or doing anything wrong, but it's like they want to win. That's what they are there for. They want to win. And Peterson knew how to command a locker room, I guess is my point I'm trying to make, that is full of veterans and young players, make them all buy in and win it all, essentially is what he did with Philadelphia. And that's what the Giants need. I mean, the two greatest coaches in the Giants' history are Tom Coughlin and Bill Parcells. And what do they have in common? The ability to just establish a culture and get everyone to say, you know what, like, I want to play for you. Lawrence Taylor loved Bill Parcells because he wanted to play for him. Bill Parcells knew how to get along with LT. He would play little competitive games with Lawrence Taylor to make LT respect him and be a friend of him. More importantly, Tom Coughlin got the respect out of everyone. Michael Strahan wanted to play for him and loved playing for him. Eli Manning loved playing for him. These are guys who they're the best of the best. They could, and they're in New York. They can do whatever they want to do, but they want to play for the coach, and that's what Peterson can bring to the table. And he's a clear-cut answer for the New York Giants. Sure, you might say, well, look at this guy. He's innovative. Or he had a lot of success in Buffalo. Or Jesse Minter, the defense coordinator. Or heck, even Kevin Stefanski, if he gets fired. Look what he did with the Browns that one season when they won a playoff game and beat the Steelers. But they've never have established themselves. And look what's happening in Cleveland right now as we speak. The Browns have lost 25 games over the past two seasons. It doesn't sound like a coach who knows how to necessarily win. He had one good year, essentially. Doug Peterson has had a resume of success. Stefanski can be good, but maybe needs to take a step back to be an OC and then get another head coaching gig. But Doug Peterson is by far the biggest and best answer for the New York Giants. He knows how to coach quarterbacks. He knows how to coach veterans. He knows how to progress younger teams. And for once, this can be a coach that enters New York who can establish a culture and a winning culture at that. Let me know what you guys think. Who should the Giants hire? Should it be Doug Peterson? Should it be someone else? Should they just keep Mike Kafka?